Did anyone have any questions? Yes, go ahead.
I kind of have a question. I forgot the gentleman's name, the black guy.
Parker.
Oh, I have a tree, and I think it's about 100 years old, and it's a whipping willow. And we tried people to come and look at the tree, but nobody wants to come to Compton, even to trim it. They had told me we're coming at 5 in the afternoon, and nobody comes because of the Compton. So how do we go about maintaining this tree? Because I'm not sure if certain parts of it is dead, and I don't want to cut it down because I think that we rule to the wildlife that we have, the insect population and stuff like that. How do we go about looking at our tree and seeing if it's, should we maintain it, if it's healthy?
Yeah, so I always refer folks like you to a certified arborist. Again, it can be tricky, I guess, depending on where you're located to get folks to come out and see you. Everybody's really busy right now. Everybody I know that's good has lots on their plate, you know. With that being said, you know, I would explore local resources near you. Maybe there's some kind of small business association or something like that you could talk to, or
Compton. I'm telling you, Compton.
Yeah.
And you know how hard to get anything done in Compton? Even like, we had through different things, like nobody wants to come to our city, and it's just like.
Have you tried next door?
Next door, that's a good idea.
Often neighbors will recommend services.
Yeah, somebody that's already worked for them, so you could ask your neighbors,
Yeah.
like if you had an arborist come by or a tree service come by.
Usually they don't do that. It's common. But thank you. I mean, and what works in other communities doesn't necessarily work on ours. So that's why we're also here to try to figure that thing out, because a lot of people are afraid of our neighborhood, and like I said, we have tried. And
So try to be like a virtual presentation. If they're afraid to come to your neighborhood, say, look, I'll go and I'll show you on Zoom and I'll zoom in. And just, that's a start. And then maybe they might be like, wow, it's so serious. I will come out or something.
Have you tried Tree People?
Tree people? No. Did I do that? Because we went through Angie's list and some other things.
I will try to see what I can whip out for you. Let me just say that. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question for Katie. How big is your lot?
I'm like here to the fridge. So I made a lot fit.
Yeah.
Space.
You
Yeah.
have an ambitious number of plants.
I did, because I really want that to get thick now, as soon as possible, so I don't have to look at the street, they don't have to look at me. But I'm happy to move plants later and propagate and all that.
I got the impression you were talking in the future tense and during some of it, like these are things you haven't already implemented. You haven't done the bee house yet, have you?
Not yet.
I'll just tell you anecdotally, I don't know a single person that's ever had a bee live in a bee house. I've tried it myself many times. I have dozens of them around my yard. And, I saw one go in one time,
Oh, yeah?
but it didn't make a nest.
What if I got the larva and put it right next to it?
You could try that, I suppose. In general, though, native bees really just need open ground to nest in. That's their favorite thing, is to be, they're mostly ground-dwelling bees. So they usually just want some exposed dirt they can go in, usually next to a plant. So I think by planting a lot of natives, you're already going to be creating a lot of good habitat opportunities for them. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Do you think the ground cover will make that better or worse for them?
Well, a really dense ground cover will probably prevent them from being able to nest. But like a ground cover such as a California sagebrush canyon gray, or a bee's bliss sage, or a buckwheat, Dana pine, or deer
So
pane.
not the ground cover I have.
Which ground cover did you use?
Hempstemon, alum root, and
No, those should be all fine too. I would think those would be all right. Yeah.
The flowers with the little sweeping bees in them, you gotta get them.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
chaperone.
Very cool. Any other questions?
Does your Greywater system overwater trees, or that's not a
It's, So we don't generally put gray water on natives that don't want that much water. We try to avoid putting gray water on the root crown where it can start to seep. That is one of the potential problems with gray water is it's watering every day as you're taking baths, showers. There's ways around that, but usually when we set it up, we do pay attention to which plants we're irrigating, so we're not gonna dump water on a plant that can't take it. But we take into account the number of people in the house, like how much water we anticipate being generated, how many plants are receiving it. So you have to be a little thoughtful, but if you are, overwatering should never be a problem.
Another sort of side note, what you were saying earlier, I think it's a great idea to use water fruit trees as well, but that doesn't necessarily preclude that you can't put some natives nearby the fruit trees also. For example, with citrus, common yarrow, a native plant, is an excellent companion plant. It'll help cycle nutrients to the citrus tree and also likes a little extra water, so you could do both things with one of it.
I actually have a question, because I remember years ago, there was someone, I don't remember the name of the system, but they came to us hoping to partner with us because they were doing really upscale greywater systems with new homes where the water actually could be treated. And I know their pilot project was either in Palmdale or Lancaster, somewhere like that. But it really worked better with newer homes, newer construction. So do you know if that is still happening? Is that a possibility? Because, some people can afford to have, a system that can treat and store and they can reuse.
I think you might be talking about a company called Nexus eWater that has gone out of business because their systems kept failing and turning septic. So if you go online, you can find a lot of proprietary greywater systems that some guy has invented, or it may even be a company with investors has put a lot of research and design into some kind of system. So these things have names like the Nexus eWater, the Flow Tender, Rewater, GreyFlow. My company has installed most of these over the years, over the decades, and we've also torn out most of them because a lot of these proprietary systems just don't work. Greywater is a very tricky medium. You can't store it, it's tricky to filter, you have to constantly clean it, it takes a lot of maintenance, it tends to turn septic. So the systems that we promote are these low-tech systems that just avoid storing, avoid filtering, using natural processes to get water out into the landscape and microbes to break down impurities, to filter, mulch to filter it. And these we have found just are the type of systems that are going to last for 20 or more years. That said, there are some high-tech systems that I've talked to a bunch of guys. There's a couple of them out there. There's one called Leapfrog, there's another called, I'm blanking on it, but there's some potentially good ones, but I would be very cautious about any expensive proprietary greywater system.
Thanks. Yeah, I think they were called Bella, maybe at the time, but that's quite a few years ago. But I do remember they had a system. It did look promising. But again, the question was about storage and how good will that water be when you're ready to use it. So that makes a difference. So I would ask you, especially let's say like someone like Yvonne, who's a renter again, and I happen to know that her laundry room is actually separate from the main house. And this was something I had actually discussed with her, and she was saying they wondered if it would be plausible to even do a greywater system because their laundry room is actually separate from the house. Would that be feasible?
So what we look for, so often washing machine systems are the easiest because you don't have to touch the plumbing. You can get the gray water as it comes off the hose off the back of the machine. What we look for is washing machines against exterior walls of the house, or if it's in a garage, if it can be easily the easiest thing you can do is take the washing machine discharge hose that's commonly goes into a standpipe or into a laundry sink and open the window and stick it out the window. Gray water. And you can do that. I mean, it's probably not the most efficient thing, but it does keep that water out of the ocean, out of the sewer system, and back in the land, where, you know, some of these old top loading machines like mine uses about 50 gallons per load. So it's a ton of water, and it really adds up, and it's just better to put it in the landscape. The second thing would be something called a laundry drum, which is putting the water into a 55-gallon barrel or something like that. So when the machine discharges 20 or 40 gallons, it goes into this, you know, barrel, and then there's a hose bib at the bottom, and you just have a garden hose that you drain out. The point of the barrel is it can accommodate a big surge of water, and then the garden hose will allow it to trickle out. So there's a book called Create an Oasis with Greywater by Art Ludwig that's very good for explaining some of these simple systems. There's another one called Greywater Green Garden by Laura Allen, also like a really valuable resource. Those are two pioneers of the Greywater world.
And so since we're still speaking about Greywater, I think it would be good for you to let people know about what kind of laundry detergent that you should be using with those systems.
That's a great question. So the things that you want to avoid for Greywater is salts, excessive salts, and borax are really the main things. So when we look at laundry detergents, we generally avoid powders because they're often high in salts. Liquids are almost invariably better. And then, you know, just borax or things like that. If you are using borax, it's perfectly okay. Just turn the handle and that would go to the sewer instead of to your garden. I use Ecos liquid detergent, or Trader Joe's liquid is good, or Method Free and Clear, Vasca. There's a lot of resources. Greywater Action has some lists on my website, greywatercorpse.com. We have information about what works well.
And we will provide a link to everyone that spoke today, to if they have websites. So those resources will be available. But you know, since you brought that up, I'm not sure if you've seen the latest detergent where it's just a slip of paper you can put. Is that something you can use? I use that all the time.
I think that one's fine. I've used it myself, and it's, as far as I know, it's great.
Yes.
I mean, there's stuff in Greywater. Some is good, some is bad. Phosphorus and nitrogen, commonly found in cleaning materials because they break down grease, are good. They're basically fertilizers. And salts and various chemicals are not so great. Usually when it rains, it will flush out the soil, as long as you're not putting tremendous amounts of salt in, or, you know, Tide powder over 10 years will start to build up in the soil. I've seen people with systems where they just had a pipe going out of their washing machine to a spot in the middle of the land, in the middle of the yard, and there'll be like a 5-foot diameter circle of like salted earth. It's like the biblical issue, but so that won't be great. But it takes a lot of detergent to you know, really affect the soil.
So in a case, let's say like Katie with a dysfunctional HOA, would she be able to put in a Greywater system? Would that be something feasible?
Anything, first of all. And so I was listening to this presentation and thinking about it. The concrete slab sounds like a problem, and then the second floor shower sounds like a problem. The laundry is on the first floor on an exterior wall. So I think that might be the winner.
Okay. And for you, Parker, so Katie hasn't done her front yard yet, where she gets a lot of sun. And of course, you know, it is facing the street where there is a homeless situation. We are all aware of the homeless situation. What advice would you give her? Because obviously she would like to not see the homeless folks. It's not that we don't respect their lives, we do. But you pay so much money for a piece of property, for a condo, you would like to have a little bit of peace. So what advice do you have for her?
Hot as hell in the summer,
Yes.
right there.
She's
right
in the
there.
valley.
Yeah, and it's a big window, and it's really thin and old and yucky, and just like the sun is just destroying it. So I've got some like thick blinds there. And I'm like, well, my houseplants are going to suffer, but I don't know. I was thinking about putting some plants on the outside that could like absorb the heat. And I was thinking, I don't have a fire if I need to like bust through, or these plants can keep me stuck in there. So.
Yeah, I don't typically think about escape routes when I'm designing a garden, but I guess that is something you gotta think about. Although, do you live in a natural area, like near open land? You probably don't have to worry about wildfires. If you're in
No,
an
but
urban
I don't
setting.
trust my neighbors, so.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you can have both things, you know what I mean? Like, if you want your windows to be covered, you may have a hard time getting out of them when you want to, when your neighbor sets your house on fire. You're turning into a weird consultation. But if I was trying to get that coverage in front of my window, I would look at lemonade berry is a great choice. Close relative, sugar bush is another great choice. They're Rus integrifolia and Rus ovata. They both grow relatively quickly, densely. They're evergreen. So they don't lose their leaves in the winter or the summertime, for that matter. So that it provides that screen.
Berry was one of the ones I got. So once that one gets thick, I'll just propagate it.
Yeah, you can plant them close together too. You can plant them a couple feet apart and make like a traditional hedge if you want to. You can just put one, and it would get big enough ultimately to provide you with the privacy as well. But that may take a few years. Ceanothus is another one that is good for a hedge. Toyon makes a really good dense hedge. Is also pretty quick growing. Can take the sun, no problem. Yeah, there's lots of good hedge options out there with native plants. And you should come by the nursery sometime. I'll show you a few.
Maybe that will be our next pilot project.
Yes.
Did anyone have any questions before we call it quits? Fred, any questions online?
No, just a comment from Yvonne. She doesn't even have plumbing to handle the water from the washing machine. She installed a hose to drain directly into her garage sink.
There you go. So Yvonne responded. There we go. But I remember it was something that we had discussed earlier.
So she could just move it.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be easy to just move that hose outside.
Out to the garden.
Yeah. So she can actually reuse that water. So that's good.
Tell her to give me a call. I'll hook her up.
Yes. I think we'll probably have lots of other conversations and so on. So, I do want to thank everyone who came and who spoke, and to the folks online, I do thank you for tuning in. And I want to thank our speakers. For the folks here, we do actually have rain barrels. And I do want to mention that Yvonne and her husband actually donated the mesh to go over the rain barrels as well, so you can get that. Although I only brought up just a few of our home water buckets, we always say, you turn on that shower, that water is cold, please catch that water and reuse it. We have more downstairs that actually have more stuff in it, low flow shower heads, etc. So if you want any of that stuff, I'm happy to give it out. For my speakers, if you want to take a rain barrel, that's okay as well, the collapsible ones. They're much easier for us to give away, obviously, because of space. But I do want to thank a few people before we leave. I do want to thank ALA, which is Accelerate Resilience LA. They were very generous in providing us with a grant so we could actually hold these workshops. I do want to thank the California Conservation Foundation and the board members for helping us out. Southern California Watershed Alliance, Greywater Corps, Hardy Californians, Temple Isaiah, Amigos de los Rios, Tree People, Sierra Club Angeles Chapter Santa Clarita Regional Group, and of course, Sierra Club California and the Angeles Chapter Water Committees, which I happen to chair both. So obviously they get thrown in here. And so to the folks who came in, I do actually have access to lots of resources. And so we will have a talk later to see what we can do about Compton. Compton is not a place I traditionally work. However, that doesn't mean we cannot work there. And there is a regional group that actually oversees Compton. So I can pull them in as well, which is the Palos Verdes South Bay Regional Group for Sierra Club.
And they're West Basin Water District, right? They're West Basin Water District?
No, Compton has its own water district. So some people might be using Compton and some might be using West Basin. But
We have our own water, we have water
do.
wells.
yes.
Yeah. The only problem that we have is the inequality of racial inequality
Yes.
and ecosystem and stuff like that, because most of the time, communities like myself, they don't get the resources that we need, and the people that come inside and try to help without other agendas. So it's really hard, especially for us. Like we have to go to Palos Verdes. We gotta go to somewhere else to get answers to our questions. So yeah.
Yes, it is difficult because, when someone, so for the folks that don't know, Metropolitan Water District is our water wholesaler, and you have regional agencies, or if you want to call it a local agency, they purchase water from Metropolitan Water District, which we refer to as MET, and whether it's West Basin, Central Basin, who am I missing out? LADWP, California Water. They are purchasing imported water and they are selling it to you, the consumer. So you don't even realize that Metropolitan is actually the one importing that water. And one of the things we stand for in Sierra Club is that we do want to make LA water independent, not just LA, California. We should all be water independent, because when we take water from up north, we are creating a problem. We are, taking water out from the Delta region, and causing, fish die-off, salmon, Delta smelt. And, I know sometimes you drive on the I-5 and you see farmers versus fish. It is not about farmers versus fish. You do have a whole ecosystem that actually depends on fresh water coming into the San Joaquin Delta. And so when we remove too much, the salmon die because that water becomes too warm, it becomes an issue. We have all our Native American brothers and sisters who depend on those fisheries. We have the people who depend on the Delta for recreation. So, it's like John Muir says, you take one thing out of nature and it affects something else. Or if you're a science buff, to every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So there is always something, so we always have to think very carefully about what we do. But I did want to thank everyone. This has been a wonderful series. This is actually, we combined the last two projects, which was these two, to make it into one. These were supposed to be two separate ones, but a lot of us got sick over the season, and so that's our last two. And so we do want to invite everyone, and we're going to try keep on doing these. When the Water Committee first started many years ago, one of the things we really wanted to focus on was on education. And of course, because we're always busy fighting a water district or water agency, sometimes we do go off track, but we really do want to bring that back in. And for all the presentations, they will be on the website so people can view them later. Our goal is to amplify the messaging today. It's not about how many people attended today or how many people saw today, but how many people will see those presentations in the future and make better decisions. And also make your districts, your water agencies, make them make better decisions. Because if you are more informed, you can tell the person representing you, I know what you're doing is wrong and my vote matters. That's very important. So I will put in a plug here, like I always do, for Water Board. Please pay attention to what's happening at your water agency. Attend those meetings. They are extremely important. And we know they're always down ballot, but it's extremely important for you to also vote for your Water Board, representative, because they do create lots of ordinances, lots of laws that do affect you. Personally.
Sierra Club puts out the endorsements. If you don't know who's good, who's bad, we'll tell you.
Yes, that's part of what we do as well.
One quick comment I wanted to make too earlier I forgot about was that I wanted to suggest to you that in your advocating for the Compton Creek and removing concrete and trying to mitigate the effects of the mosquitoes, that if you also advocate for the restoration of the native flora in that area, then a lot less water will be sitting on the surface, and it'll help it percolate into the ground and reduce the mosquitoes.
I've been taking tons of paperwork from everywhere that I go, that people from, taking them to the school, taking it to the city council, but I feel so frustrated when people, because I'm not a professional, because I don't work in the, just as a resident, and to bring all this paperwork and then not to take it serious, and then seeing how my city is having such a hard time filling potholes, and then looking at them and be like, this is the people that are gonna be dealing with the water in these complex situations. So I'm very concerned, you know, and I know that there's a lot of people in the community that just don't believe anymore that our voice matter. And it goes really deep. And to get them to even look into this is exhausting. They think nothing's gonna change. So sometimes I think maybe bringing new voices and other people to activate certain things, especially when it comes to water, is really important because it's just, anyway, that's my little spill. So hopefully you guys look into the Compton Creek as well. And I appreciate the comment. I 100% believe that bringing native plants is the way to go.
Absolutely, we advocated for the LA River. I can tell you, I was one of the dogs in that fight, and we got the Army Corps of Engineers to actually agree to spending like $20 billion to try and revitalize the LA River. And I'm talking about just the river, not all the construction that's going to be happening along the river. So I want to make that clear. I'm talking about the river itself. And so definitely we will talk and see what we can do and how we can help advocate. And so just to let you know, for the folks that don't know, Sierra Club is a volunteer-led organization, okay? Volunteers do the work, we do 80% of the work. The staff are there to facilitate that work. So if anyone is listening and they would like to join Sierra Club or to become more actively involved, know that you will actually have to do the work. I get a lot of calls, charming, they're cutting down trees. What is Sierra Club doing? No, what are you going to do with the rest of us? That's how it works. So I am not staff. Let me also say that. I am not a staff member. I am a volunteer. Although because of the breadth of the work I have been doing over many years, people think I'm a staff member. I am not. I'm a volunteer and I volunteer my time. Like, I have to say that, Cynthia, she's laughing because even people in the industry think I'm staff. So I actually do have to say that. So once again, thank you very much, everyone. To the folks online, if you have questions, put it on YouTube and we will get through, answer you, and we will provide the resources for you to speak with everyone one-on-one if you want to. And Parker, before you leave, I do want you to mention that plant again with the bees, because even I want
Chaparral mallow.
Chaparral mallow.
Yeah.
There you go. Because I suspect I'll get a lot of questions about that. Okay. Thank you so much. Oh, for the eats there, please, there are takeaway containers. Help yourself. Take something away so that we don't have to throw it away.
Thank you, China.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Fred. How did I forget? Thank you, Fred.
I know, right?